Oh, here we go. There's Brian. Okay.
Rainy Vancouver.
Hey, Brian.
Sam, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm awesome.
Look at this truck.
Look at this rain. How you doing?
So nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for doing this with us. It's
Yeah.
really a pleasure.
So happy to be here.
Look, we've got our Jobber Summit event happening, and we always talk to our customers a little bit about like who they love to hear from, who are they really inspired by, and we keep hearing your name and the name of your company over and over again. Amazing brand. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Very cool.
But we had one customer tell us that you got to talk to Brian. He's literally the king of garbage.
Okay.
And so here you are. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
I wonder,
happy to be here.
like for the people in the audience who maybe aren't familiar with you, can you give us a quick overview, quick
My
summary?
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started right out of high school. I was actually one course short of graduation. Was looking for a way to go to college. I talked my way into college, but I had to pay for it. I was in a McDonald's drive-through of all places, and I see a beat-up old pickup with plywood sides built up on the box, filled with junk, and I'm like, there's my ticket. So I bought a truck of my own for $700. Started hauling junk within a week, had a business that paid for school, but ironically, it inspired me to drop out of school. I was learning so much more running a business versus studying in school, and with 1 year left, I told my dad I've got some big plans and quit university.
Amazing. That's an amazing story. And that's, I mean, I think, one that probably our audience can really relate to, and especially young people, these days looking for opportunity.
Yeah.
You can find it in a McDonald's drive-through. There's many other places you can find it too. We actually, we produce annually our blue collar report,
I've
which
heard.
is, a survey-based research report
Right.
to talk about entrepreneurship and in particular the trades and sort of blue collar industries where there's a ton of opportunity all over the place if people would just be willing to sort of open
seize
their
it.
eyes and look and seize it. Yeah. So how did you gather the gumption to seize it as a young, 20-year-old, something like
Yeah.
that?
The big step was dropping out of school, which is a really big step when
That's a
you've got a
huge-
father who's a liver transplant surgeon who knows what school is all about and the importance of it. I just sold him on the fact I'm learning so much running my own business. And it was working for me. What was to fund my college education taught me so much.
Yeah.
So I quit and I took that step. I've always believed, and we tell our franchise partners this, you have to go all in.
Yeah.
You can't do both things. You can't do school and a business. Pick one and
Focus.
seize the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, your dad, the liver transplant surgeon, is probably pretty proud of what you
Took him
managed
a
to
long
achieve.
time, but he's proud now.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Well, I got some junk here. I'm hoping you can
noticed.
help us out with.
Let's do it.
Let's get it in the truck.
You need
and
a
have
hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you could give me a hand, let's
For
get it
sure.
in there and.
Okay. Quick little,
All right.
let's do this.
Got some gloves here.
Safety first.
Should we open up the truck?
I can. Okay.
It's
We'll probably
good.
just do that.
Yeah.
There we go.
Toss these guys in here.
All right, feels good to be hauling junk again.
Yeah, right? This is like the old days.
Look at how strong you are. You've got it yourself.
There we go.
Okay.
Brian's showing me how to do it.
Awesome. Shut the door. We're good.
Okay, let's get out of here.
Okay. I'm so used to going fast when we're in the truck because it's like, okay, I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
I'm back on the job.
Time is money, right?
Exactly.
You gotta move. Junk's not gonna pick up itself.
Not at all.
Were you still driving a truck at all by the time you guys had these more serious vehicles?
You know what? I was before. So before we got these Isuzus, we really came up with the vision of clean, shiny trucks, friendly, uniformed drivers. And so we had to up our game. What does this one do here? And no, I'd already started to franchise the company by the time we got trucks like this. But I spent 6 years in the trucks hauling junk.
You talk about vision
Yeah.
quite a lot in the stuff that you talk about online at conferences, et cetera. And it's obviously been a really important part of your success as a company.
Yeah.
How do you think about that vision setting? Like, and how should people that are, staring at the blank page, the blank page sort of like, cold start problem, how should people think about vision and setting vision and making that an embedded part of what they're building?
Well, I think as the founder, as the entrepreneur, no matter how small a business you have, you start somewhere, but you start with a vision. And you ask yourself, what do I see at a point in the future? What am I recruiting a team of people and building a brand to do? And it doesn't matter if someone's cutting lawns or washing windows, you got to have a vision of what sets you apart. So 8 years into the business, I'd hit $1 million in revenue with, it was called the Rubbish Boys at the time. Then we became 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and I said, I want something bigger. I want us to grow across North America. And I had this grand vision. So I actually went to, my parents had a summer cottage on the island, Bowen Island nearby, and I sat down and I said, what does the future possibility look like? And what I started to write on one page, double-sided, just came from my brain, I wanted to share with others, was we will be in the top 30 metros in North America. There's 30 cities bigger than Vancouver where we started. I said we'd be on the FedEx at junk removal, clean, shiny trucks, friendly uniformed drivers. And I said that with 1-800-GOT-JUNK, we'd also appear as a guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Now, I made every one of those with a great team, made every one of those things happen, but it started with a vision. So when I wrote my vision, the next step was to then share it with my team, get their buy-in. And we had a lot of people that looked at it and said, Brian, top 30 metros, Oprah Winfrey, what are you smoking? And some of those people left. But the ones who stayed said, I believe in Brian, I believe in the vision,
Yeah.
and I want to be a part
And it's got to be exciting. It's got to sound ambitious and actually be ambitious.
By putting it in writing. I always say to an entrepreneur, you can't get out there and start a business and not tell people what you see. Every person, again, no matter how small the business might be, they've got a vision in their head. They've got some sort of picture. How do you clarify it? How do you put it in writing? And how do you share it with your people?
Yeah. Have you changed the vision?
Every 5 years, we create a new vision. So we're in process right now of rolling out a 2030 painted picture, which actually has us growing to 1.4 billion. So what started as that tiny million in revenue, 1-800-GOT-JUNK in less than 5 years will be well over $1 billion.
Incredible. So you think people should revisit the vision maybe every 3 to 5 years?
I think you should rewrite a vision every 3 to 5 years, but I think you should revisit the vision constantly.
Yeah.
What we do is we take it every quarter and we talk to our entire company and our team. We talk to our franchise partners. And then once a month, at least, you should be sitting down and looking at it yourself, getting your executives or your team, your partners, whoever you might have surrounding you to say, this is where we see ourselves going. What are the gaps right now in how to get there? So as the visionary, I'm lucky I've got Eric Church, who is our president. He's the implementer, I'm the visionary. I've created the vision, of course, with his input as well, but he's the executor who's bringing that vision to life. And it's important that we constantly check in with our progress.
Yeah, that's incredible. And your vision. I mean, you've been in business for so long now. The vision has surely evolved, tremendously over the years, the decades, to adapt to the opportunity and the changing environment. And one of the things that surely has changed a lot and is changing now is technology. And I think we clearly are seeing a transformation in the trades and in these industries from sort of, we call it from tool belt to tablet.
Sure.
And of course, being CEO and founder of a technology company, I'm a little biased,
Yeah.
but it just cannot be ignored that technology is this massive force multiplier and amplification sort of force for small businesses. What's your take on technology in businesses, and kind of how have you thought about technology in your business over the many years you've been at it?
Yeah, Sam, I am not a software founder, but we've created software, and I'm also biased and a huge fan. Technology is a gift. It's a tool that allows us to grow faster. I could not have franchised 1-800-GOT-JUNK if we didn't have a phone number, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which was
Amazing,
widely spread across Canada and the United States. But I also needed then the technology, a portal, a booking and dispatch set of software, the systems that we would allow our franchise partners to scale. And they really needed our technology, which at the time was called JunkNet. They needed to build a business that had a system in place, and that's made all the difference. And I think that companies that scale can't do it without technology. There's only so much you can write down on paper and text to people. You need to really lever up your technology and say, what can it do for me to allow my business to scale and grow faster?
Yeah. Do you think people should start right away, or is it sort of only required, when you're thinking about really scaling and getting systems and processes in place?
I think you want to figure out the business. I was in the trucks for 6 years. This is bringing back great memories. I was in the business hauling junk for 6 years, figuring out every single thing we did and how to do it the best possible way we could, listening to customers, listening to my employees. And once we had these processes, then it was how do we use technology to make sure that everything's done the same way every time, kind of like a McDonald's cookie cutter type approach. But what I did was I said, okay, once we were ready for technology and once the tools existed, we started to really build. Got space there? Okay.
Yep.
An interview, and we don't want an accident. So, there I was building out our junk net. Today, it's different. There's so many more tools. We couldn't find anything off the shelf at the time, and we had to build our own. I think that was our only option. Today, we outsource different things to different people across our technology platforms. Like we've got cameras that film that we're driving safely, and hopefully I don't get any bad reports. But technology is something that sometimes you don't want to build it. You want to go out and just buy it.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the role of customer service in achieving success and scaling, your business. And if you could go back and do it again, is there anything that you would approach differently with respect to customer service, or did you nail it?
We didn't nail it. I mean, no one ever does. We've done a great job, but we've also made mistakes. And I'm a big believer in being willing to fail, a WTF attitude. You'll make mistakes, that's okay, learn from them. So we have not been perfect, far from it. What I think we did well was we understood that to build a brand in junk removal in a highly fragmented mom and pop space, we had to get out there and create something that was unique and different. Clean, shiny trucks, friendly uniformed drivers, on-time service, upfront rates. Those became what we call our EFAs, our exceptional focus areas. What were we focused on that would benefit the consumer? They want it to be easy, and they want to know they're dealing with happy professionals that'll do a great job. So we hold our teams accountable. We hold our truck team members, we hold our franchise partners accountable to those exceptional focus areas. We make sure we deliver them. If we see a dirty truck out there on the road, a franchise partner might say, well, customers don't really care. They're having their junk hauled away. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Make a great impression, have clean, shiny trucks, show that you're the ultimate professional.
Yeah, that's a great, those are great sort of principles, I think, for anybody to keep in mind. And it actually ties back to the vision as well. You talked about it a little bit earlier. I think having some of those principles embedded, right in the vision makes it clear for everyone to see what really matters, to you as the leader, the visionary, and what's going to make the company successful ultimately. I think the customer experience is paramount.
And then you recruit the right people who get it. So the vision really has us seen as hiring happy people. And so we find happy people who aren't necessarily passionate about junk removal, but passionate about building a brand. They're passionate about being a part of something bigger than themselves and making a difference. They're happy to wow customers and make sure they're thrilled. And so the vision, as you mentioned, it sort of dictates what are all the things that we need to pay attention to that matter most in growing a business.
Yeah. And software can really help with that. I think, platforms like Jobber make it easier for everybody to deliver amazing customer service and stay on top of the promises that you're making. What about speed and sort of, you talked a little bit about professionalism, but I think we're living in a world that's going faster and faster and faster. Yeah. And I think that you hear this cliche all the time: first to contact, first to contract. Matters. And if you get there first, you're gonna get the business. You're gonna create the better customer experience. What are your thoughts and experience around this concept of speed, and how have you thought about and made sure that 1-800-GOT-JUNK is fastest?
Yeah, so we say in our ads we'll be there before you hang up the phone. Now, I don't think anyone believes that that's really possible because it's magic. But we'll be there quickly. We care, and we're going to get there so that when we show up on site, we make it easy. We're there quickly, and we'll often have a 2-hour promise window that we can get there within 2 hours, even from the time of the appointment being scheduled. it's important to outserve your competition or outperform them, I guess, by figuring out what can you do better. If we've got a massive fleet of trucks, we've got about 3,000 trucks.
Wow.
We know we can show up sooner than other people often can. It's also the follow-up and follow-through that matters in customer experience. It isn't just the make sure you're the first to contact. It's do that, but then follow up. People get busy, life happens, and you get customers who mean to call you back but don't. If you are leading the charge and following up with them, that shows that you have a service mentality and makes a difference.
Yeah, right. So being first and sloppy is no good, really.
No.
You got to be first, you got to be fast, and you got to be good.
Sloppy is never good.
Yeah. We're in this 1-800-GOT-JUNK truck. You just mentioned there are 3,000 of them out there, and I see people looking at it because it is such a recognizable brand. You've done such a great job building a brand that people really know. I think that people trust, and there's some affinity to it. People like it. It's fun. You want to call 1-800-GOT-JUNK when you got junk that needs to be taken away. How did you do that? How did you do that? And how should small businesses think about building a great brand?
Sure. I'll be clear. It took me 10 years to franchise the business. So I know you believe in the same thing, because off camera you said, these overnight success stories sure take a long time. I mean, they do. This has been a 36-year overnight success story. We built it slowly. We had patience, and we made sure we were consistent to do the right things right. And so what I mean by that is, if clean, shiny trucks matter, if friendly uniformed drivers matter, if culture matters, pay attention to it and don't compromise. 5 years into the business, I fired my entire team. I had 11 employees. One bad apple, as they say, spoils the whole bunch. I had probably 9 bad apples. They just weren't the right fit for my happy business, and I got rid of them, all 11 in one fell swoop. And I said, team, I've let you down. So I started by saying, I'm sorry. I have let you down, not found the right people, given you the love and support you needed to be successful. And we ended up parting with the team. But that taught me that a company is all about people. Find the right people and treat them right. So my advice on people starting businesses and growing is make sure you find the right people for you. If your culture is about customer experience, making customers happy every single time, you like taking care of people, find people that like to take care of people. It's not rocket science, but it's incredibly important.
That's a really tough decision you had to make to sort of create the kind of brand experience that you wanted to create and ultimately did create. I think that's a really great story, because that had to have been one of the hardest things you've done. Surely there have been a lot of hard decisions since then, but that's a really difficult thing to do, and I'm sure a lot of people listening today have had to get rid of someone on their team, let alone the entire team, and just hit the big reset button.
Yeah, but you got to do it. If you've got the wrong people, you've got to make a decision to get those wrong people out, and that matters. So tough decision, but we wouldn't be a $700+ million business and growing if we didn't have those people who are the right people today.
Yeah. And any sort of more tactical advice for those listening around what you can do to build a brand? I think the marketing that 1-800-GOT-JUNK has achieved is obviously very effective. Are there one or two things that you think people should think about or look to as little hacks or tips?
The 3 areas for me to focus on are vision, people, and systems. We've covered vision. We've talked a little bit about people, and we've talked a little bit about systems. And by systems, I don't just mean software. I mean systems that'll allow you to train the right people, find the right people, and keep them great. Yeah,
that's great advice. All right, well, we're back at the shop. Let's continue the conversation upstairs.
Okay, amazing. Thanks, Sam. We are on a weekend, so you are not seeing people, okay? A lot of people, of course, working remote, different cities.
Okay, well, let's keep this conversation going. We were chatting in the truck just now about some advice around marketing, and one of the things you talked about was process. Process sort of as an input to marketing, but process is obviously a much bigger topic than that. And I think from what I know about you, you are a process guy. So how do you think about process, getting process started in your business, maybe cultivating, nurturing, because it's probably not a one and done thing. It's something you need to revisit over and over again. How do you make sure that in a business you have great process?
Yeah, so I am an ADHD entrepreneur. Like, I didn't finish school. I went to 14 schools, from high school, university, college, the whole thing. And so I tell you that as I don't sound like a process guy, but why process works for me is it keeps me organized and predictable. If I have a packing list on my phone, a simple system that tells me exactly what I need for every business trip, I don't need to write it down every time and think. So process can be simple. It's what is the best practice, what's the checklist. Just like an airline pilot, you want to know that no matter how good they are, they're still running through all the checks. Adding systems to your business is the same thing. People don't fail, systems do. If you don't have the right systems to keep those people accountable and on track, figure out how to document what works in your business and train others.
People don't fail, processes do. If the processes keep you going, ideally you're achieving amazing blockbuster business growth. Everything is going up and to the right like crazy. That brings challenges too. You've been there, done that. 36 years, I think you said earlier.
36 years.
So you've seen the ups, the downs, the sideways, everything in between.
Of course.
How do you kind of handle all that growth and prevent from melting down? How do you manage the sort of mental challenge of staying on top of the business through the good times, the bad, and everything in between?
Yeah, as someone who's ADHD, I love to have simplicity throughout my entire life. So systems, people don't fail, systems do. What is the simple checklist or process that I need for my own role? What does every person need every day to make sure that they're successful? This isn't breeding robots. This is just giving a little bit of structure. When we sit down in a meeting, we've got something called POA. What's the purpose, outcome, and agenda of every meeting? Give a little bit of structure to it. We free flow the rest. But it's really one of those things where systems allow you to focus on what's most important. And I think most businesses, people get to a point where they want to scale. How do you scale without losing your mind? It's having the right processes, but it's a balance, and you learn as you grow. You don't want to overdo it.
Yeah.
I've certainly had times in my business where people are like, we can't get anything done. There's too many checkpoints. Okay, that's a problem. We need to simplify and refocus our systems.
How do you know when you're overdoing it? Like, is that the main sort of signal? People are saying it's too much in the way. Like, how can you tell when the balance is kind of shifting out of whack?
You can tell when things aren't working. You might hear from your people. You might hear from your customers. We measure all sorts of metrics, as I'm sure your software probably provides, is make sure if you're watching your customer service metrics, we do net promoter score. And if our score in a particular franchise is out of whack, we start asking questions. You investigate what's going on. Again, people don't fail, systems do. What's the missing system as to why they're not hitting their customer service numbers?
Yeah.
People will tell you when it's not working, but I think a leader's job is to pay attention and actually go, okay, maybe it isn't working. And I've got a belief, you inspect what you expect. If you expect as we do, our sales center staff to have a smile when they're talking to a customer, inspect that. Call and make some phone calls, as I do, and check in and go, yeah, this is really impressive. You guys are doing a great job. Or where can I provide feedback?
Interesting. Yeah, and I mean, like you said, I think visibility is a really important part of being able to set up those systems as well. You need to be able to, see the metrics, see the data functionally, so you can look for those issues, look for those problems and opportunities to improve. Let's talk about failure.
Oh no.
You wrote a book about failure.
I did.
I think most of the people in the audience today know something about failure. I think to be an entrepreneur is almost by definition to expose yourself to failure and to force yourself to learn from that failure. Doesn't make it any easier, of course. What are your thoughts on failure? Why did you think that this was something that was so important to write about? And maybe what's the most important thing that you've learned about failure in your experience?
Well, it's interesting. When my co-author and I, Roy Williams, wrote the book, we didn't have a title. And he's the big, I know how to write books, you just wait to the end, we'll come up with the title. And after reading our manuscript we created, it was like, wow, I failed a lot. And the title just came, WTF, being willing to fail. So I think that I do love failure. Of course, I don't want to fail. Nobody does. It's hard on our egos. It hurts. It can cost money. It can be painful. But it's those moments where we deeply learn something. And it's a gift if you're willing to unwrap it and go, what did I learn? I told you the story of firing 11 employees. I went from 5 trucks, fully packed schedule with customers, down to being able to operate 1 truck myself. I was alone. I felt lonely. But it was like, okay, what can I do differently here? I need to reinvent my culture moving forward. And we did. So every failure is a gift, hard to see in the moment, but it's being able to reflect. And what I do is I take out a sheet of paper whenever I fail, whenever I'm ready to get back up, and I say, what's the one thing that could be just awesome that will come out of this failure? And I write stuff, and it happens. Because when you start thinking in a positive way about the opportunity of the failure, nobody ever gets through life. Look at any sports team, look at any leader in the world. They didn't achieve greatness and win without failing every step of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You have to fail to grow. And it is the best opportunity to create growth, but it's so hard. I love that idea of kind of writing it down and framing it as an opportunity, a gift. Like what is the best outcome that could follow from this failure, rather than dwelling on the fact that there was failure. Any other tips? Anything else that you've kind of learned to do to try to reframe failure as a growth opportunity?
Yeah, it's don't shy away from talking about it with your team.
Yeah.
People respect and admire leaders. We teach this to our people, to be vulnerable, to share that, oh my gosh, guys, I messed up here. Admit it, but then talk about the learning. Don't dwell in it, and just go, okay, here's what I was taught. Here's the lesson I get out of this failure. Because then you'll inspire your people to take some risks and make some mistakes. And as you said, that's how you grow.
Yeah.
So failure's okay.
Yeah.
It's been a taboo topic for so long, but I think that entrepreneurs who can embrace it and get behind it, it's a real lever to growth.
Yeah, could be a superpower. Could really kind of give you an
is for
advantage.
us.
Yeah, I think people think that failing will make you a failure, but that's a great insight. That you should be honest about it with your team, and then rapidly get to a plan. Get to sort of what comes next. How are we gonna turn this failure into a roadmap for success?
Yeah, I mean, at a very simple level, I failed out of high school. I have not graduated from high school.
Yeah.
Am I a failure?
Hard to
Right?
make that argument.
It's okay to sit there and go, I made a mistake, but I did learn from it. And I realized school didn't work for me in terms of learning. I didn't drop out of, when I dropped out of university out of learning. I dropped out of a way of learning that didn't work for me.
Yeah, that's an incredible example, and one I hope that people in the audience really get a lot of inspiration from. And a good segue to my last question for you, and topic, which is all about this blue collar revolution that's happening. It really feels like, we've been doing this at Jobber now for 15 years. It really feels more than ever to me like there is growing momentum behind the sort of blue collar industries, the trades, the sort of like the world of physical work, let's call it. People who are working with their hands to make things happen in the real world, and in particular small businesses who just chart off on their own and take the risk, take the leap of faith to go build something from scratch. I think that's amazing. At Jobber, a huge part of our mission is trying to enable more of this. We want to create more blue collar entrepreneurs in the world, or help create the conditions anyways for blue collar entrepreneurs to come up and have that experience. What do you think the people who are part of this community can or should be doing to contribute to creating that outcome? Because it is a community. It is, you see this all the time, these small business groups and different industries talking to each other, sharing ideas, pumping each other up. What do you think that we all should be doing to create more of this entrepreneurial success in the world? Yeah,
I love entrepreneurship. It's interesting. I'm reflecting. I've never considered myself blue collar, even though, yes, I am wearing a blue collar right now. I've considered myself a person that's passionate about making a difference in the world, about the possibilities that others don't see. So whether it's a white collar or blue collar business, it's what can we make better through taking care of our people, through growing brands and great companies, through having the right systems. And so I think that it's getting out there. I would agree. There's so many home service-based companies out there, blue-collar businesses, that need support. They need software, they need leadership training, they need mentorship and inspiration from other entrepreneurs.
great, go out there and find the resources and get it. But to me, it's what an opportunity in this world where there's so much technology. I mean, like you said, AI is all that anyone talks about every single moment. Technology is great and it's a tool, but how do we get out there and grow our businesses through people? Complement the two together and they work really, really nicely.
Yeah, yeah. And I think giving back is really powerful and important as well. I mean, obviously, 36 years in, you are phenomenally successful in your business, but all along the way, there were probably those moments at year 5 or year 9 or year 15 when you didn't necessarily think of yourself as a success, but you had hard-earned lessons that are really valuable for the next generation and younger entrepreneurs to hear about. I love that you take time to talk to us and talk to the next generation of entrepreneurs in our audience and on Dragon's Den, and I think there's lots of things that you're doing to try and encourage that next generation. But I think more people can do it.
Yeah, I know I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I am today if it wasn't for asking for help. And I would pick up the phone, call an entrepreneur, a big one, a little one, someone that wasn't well known, whatever, and I would ask for their feedback and advice. And they would take the time because they know and remember what it was like to be helped themselves. And someone told me when I was younger, they're like, one day when you build this, you're going to be giving back to others. And I think it's a responsibility of entrepreneurs and it's something we love to do.
That's awesome. I love that perspective, Brian. Thank you so much for being with us today. This has been a wonderful conversation. I teased a big Jobber Grants announcement at the start of the event. For everyone watching, this is our annual grants program awarding excellence in blue-collar businesses, where grants go toward funding an applicant's business case. We've given away nearly $1 million in grants over the last 5 years. And today, we're committing another $1 million.
Very cool.
Yeah, Brian, you're on Dragon's Den. So you assess business pitches all the time. I want to share the grant amounts with you and get your take on how people should pitch using a Jobber grant to accelerate their business. In 2026, we're awarding $250,000 with grants at $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, and for the first time, $100,000.
Wow.
So how should people think about pitching Jobber for these grants?
Number one thing in a pitch is clarity of vision. Make sure they've got a vision of what their future looks like and share it with Jobber.
I think that's a great place to end our chat. We talked through your proven strategies for growth, and now I want everyone here to visit jobber.com/grants to apply for a Jobber grant with Brian's advice in mind. Brian, thanks so much for having us, letting us use your space.
Of course.
It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
All right, what an amazing time we have had here at the 1-800-GOT-JUNK HQ. Our junk is dropped off. We're getting packed up, ready to go. But I took 10 takeaway notes from my conversation with Brian that I just wanted to summarize before we go. Number 1, write down your vision, share it, and revisit it every 3 to 5 years. Number 2, technology is what creates opportunity to scale. Without it, you're probably stunting your business. Number 3, know the level of customer service that you want to deliver, then hold your employees accountable for it. Number 4, out-service the competition. Figure out what you can do better than anyone else and do it. Number 5, you can't do everything. So narrow your focus around what really matters the most. Number 6, people don't fail, systems do. This is Brian's sort of big tag. People don't fail, systems do. So create systems that make it hard to fail. Number 7, listen to your customers. They can be an early warning signal for failing systems. Number 8, automate what you can so that you can have the time and energy to spend on the human systems that really matter, or the human sort of interactions that matter in your business. Number 9, failing is an opportunity to learn. Write down the best thing that could come from a failure. I really like that idea. That's what I'm going to start doing. And finally, number 10, ask for help, get feedback, and pay it forward. Entrepreneurs are really more willing to help than you might think. It's really great advice from a really great entrepreneur.